IVM.
Hi, everybody. Just wanted to ask everyone for a quick favor. We're running a brand survey right now and would really appreciate it if you could let us know what you think about the advertising on IVM. Go to ivmpodcast.com/survey and do let us know. As part of this, we'll be selecting 10 random participants and sending them some IVM swag, so do fill out those surveys.
The journeys that creators take across how they create and distribute their content hold many a story and a treasure trove of insights to learn from. From how they find balance between creating content, building businesses around them, and their personal lives, to how they have found ways to evolve and grow both as individuals as well as creators along the way. One such creator is Masoom Minawala. And on this week's episode, I talked to her about her journey from fashion blogging to growing as a creator and as a business, plus her focus on elevating women in business through Empower Her. All this and more on this week's episode of Advertising is Dead. I'm Arun Duggirala. Be right back with Masoom Minawala. Modern advertising and AI go almost hand in hand. It's become so easy to track analytics from various different platforms because of artificial intelligence, and there's always a growing demand in the industry for talent that understands and can work with AI. Luckily, Intel's Digital Readiness Program is here to empower everyone with skill sets, mindsets, and tool sets to use in an AI-fueled world. So you can be ready to develop AI for sports if you want to as well. The Intel AI for Youth program is an initiative that guides today's youth to an understanding of AI, how it is designed, and why it's important today. Intel's been working with the CBSE, Ministry of Education, and the Government of India to empower today's youth to build social impact solutions while demystifying what AI is. How do you take advantage of this? Purchase an Intel Core-powered PC and you get free access to 80 plus hours of immersive and hands-on training about AI. On completion of the program, along with a certificate, you get access to AI toolsets to try to put what you've learned to good use. So don't wait. Log on to futurebanaowonderful.intel.com. Future Banao Wonderful by bringing home an Intel-powered PC. Welcome back to Advertising is Dead. We talked to Masoom. Masoom, welcome to the show. I'm super excited to chat with you. I have to confess, I follow a lot of your content and I keep thinking about the fact that if only I could create content like this, because I do genuinely have a point of view on style, if that's what can be called what it is. But I love what you put out. I love what you do, and happy to have you on the podcast.
Thank you, Varun. Thank you so much for having me. Excited to chat with you today.
You know, you had a bit of an interesting journey, right? Your journey has, in many ways, if you look at the creator economy today, it's interesting that your journey in many ways is something many people can kind of draw from, because at some point you've been able to grow a successful business by leveraging what you have been doing as a creator, as a creative in that sense. But how did it kind of start off? How did this whole was this an area that you always wanted to focus on? How did this kind of start off for you?
So this started off years ago. About 10 years ago, I was actually doing an internship in Mumbai, which is where I grew up. And I was given a research project to do on bloggers at a time when, our country didn't have many bloggers, but even across the world, there were just a handful doing it, So I think at this point, only Amitabh Bachchan had a blog. And it was really interesting. So I was given a research project on fashion bloggers. And when I typed in those two words on Google for the first time, I clearly, vividly remember that moment, right? And whenever I hear other people say, I clearly, vividly remember this moment 10 years ago, I used to never believe them because I used to feel like, how is this even possible?
Yeah.
But I literally remember that moment because I felt like something changed. I never felt that kind of excitement, that level of curiosity before. I was amazed at what I was looking at, right? So I was looking at these beautiful, but more than beautiful, interesting and captivating internet pages filled with photos of fashion and outfits and personal style. And they were supported with these paragraphs of, how the outfit was styled and why it was styled and what's trending and what's not. And I said, wow, I absolutely love this. So I went back home from my internship. I got home at like 8 p.m. 9 p.m. I was like, I got to do this. I got to set up my own fashion blog. Literally, I was sitting with my parents. My mom came up with a name. I didn't sleep the whole night. It was, one of those platforms where you self code your website, right?
Yeah.
So it was literally called blogger.com because you build your own blog in a matter of a few hours. And that's actually how it all began.
And at that point, like you said, there weren't as many people blogging, let alone kind of, especially in India, blogging around fashion, around style, etc. If you look at that period and looking at what you set out to create and how that evolved, basically with the audience, how did that kind of pan out? Because I feel the audience over time has changed, but many of the fundamentals, especially from an Indian audience, have I feel have kind of stayed. So, what are the first set of things? And I feel that most new creators kind of go through this, right? It's like you get a realization about, okay, I thought this is what an audience would be like and what they really enjoy as content, but you have a certain set of initial realizations that kind of hit you. What were those at that point of time?
Oh my God. So I thought nobody would ever find out about this, right? Because it's me sitting at my home in Prabhadevi in Mumbai, creating my own blog, convincing, I actually had to convince my grandfather to buy me a camera because I didn't have one. And I was like, well, how am I going to take the photos? Because that time we used to use like Blackberries or I think maybe even a little bit before.
The world's worst cameras we had.
We had the world's worst camera phones. And I was sitting at home and I was like, nobody's going to see this for a while. But it was crazy. I don't know whether it was something that was so unknown or whether it was just curiosity or people were more like, what the hell does she think she's doing? But whatever it was, it worked. People literally within the first few months as well, I was getting so many views and so many hits on my blog. And I was like, oh my God, people are really interested. I actually at that point, kudos to like sort of my naiveness or I guess just just being that unaware. I thought people were interested, not that they were really coming to for any matter of fact like criticize it or sort of joke about it or make fun about it, which I later found out was actually the real scenario, by the way. I'll come to that. But I thought they were really interested, and that played a huge role of encouragement towards me because I was like, wow. And okay, I'm seeing so many people and so many hits and so many views. The number's 5,000. But at that point, 5,000
at that point in time was...
It was like basically filling up an auditorium, right? Like 5,000 people, like filling up a theater. It was just incredible. And the only place that this is pre-Instagram era, right? So the only page that I would put up a blog post, and a blog post took hours to create. It's really not about that Instagram snapshot. A blog post took hours to create, and then I would post it on my Facebook page, Facebook personal like profile. Even Facebook pages were like barely there at this point. So I would post on my personal profile, and then, my friends would click on it and then tell their friends about it. And it was actually a great response. So for me, it wasn't even the type of response that was alarming. It was just that there was any response at all, which just felt so good. Because I think when I started off, right, the purpose of blogging was not to have an audience, to have a community. The purpose was more about just putting my thought out into the world.
Your expression.
Yeah, my expression. It really wasn't about that boomerang or that bounce back coming to me in terms of comments or views or likes. Like that didn't really exist in that blogging universe.
Actually, and I feel many times that's one piece that we don't give fashion its due, is that it's actually a form of expression, right? Most times there is a tendency amongst one large set, which I think thankfully has kind of gone down now, which is to trivialize it as being at the surface. But in many ways, what your fashion sense is or what your point of view on style, etc., is your way of expressing yourself. And so what I've also found is that any content around it which kind of taps into that genuinely just resonates with people, right? And would you say that over time, as you've been creating, it's become a lot more about your expression? Well, initially, I know that all of us start off with, okay, let's just put out what we think could be fun and cool. And I think everybody starts off with fun and cool. But how soon did it become about what you really wanted to express and share out there?
So, Varun, for me, genuinely from day one started about what I wanted to express. Because I had different ideas when it came to fashion. They didn't have to necessarily be offbeat. I started off with, I felt like I wanted to bring global trends to India because I felt like India didn't have enough access to it. So, I was talking about palazzo pants, which is pretty basic, but 10 years ago, it really wasn't. And I was talking about how to style it. So for me, it's always been about putting that expression out there. I think, in fact, what you're talking about being fun and cool,
Yeah.
I think I've had that phase in the middle of my career.
Okay. That's interesting.
So yeah, so and I feel like because it's also been such a long time and the industry has evolved so much, for me, I've had so many points, so many breaking points where I'm like, is this what I started out for? Is this
Mm.
what I really want to do? How am I serving my audience? How am I serving myself? Like for me, this is something that comes up probably every year
Yeah.
because this industry is evolving at a pace like no other. And good ways and in bad. So I feel
Yeah,
like
for sure.
you're constantly questioning yourself. So I think just about when Instagram came in, right?
Yeah.
And those first couple of years, I think that's when I probably lost focus. Of my expression, of why I actually started doing this. And we had that whole sort of so there was this phase where I felt like I was creating and posting content that was fun and cool, like you said.
Yeah.
But very soon, whenever you're doing something, right, whenever you're doing something to please somebody else or to be accepted, is the best way.
Yeah.
It doesn't last long. I think I'm aware enough to know what is not serving me, what is not really at the core of it giving me happiness and purpose. So I was quick to move on with that phase of life.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a journey of kind of constantly evolving, right? Because I've said from day one, my blog is about me expressing my ideas and my opinions. And honestly, my ideas and opinions are constantly changing. So
Of
if you're
course.
gonna find if you find a blog post of me from years ago, I don't think I'm going to resonate with it
Yeah.
either.
You might not agree
Today.
with it
Yeah,
as much anymore.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's interesting when the middle part was this. Was it also when you kind of moved towards saying, okay, I need to kind of build this into something that was a lot more business-like? Kind of when you made that switch, was this around the same time, or do you think that uh, kind of overlap together?
Yes. So when I did, I was done with my studies, and I wanted to start working. I wanted to start doing something, and I had this blog, and it was a couple of years in, so I had a very strong readership, and I felt like I wanted to do something, and I've always been extremely ambitious, um, in terms of my goals, and I felt like blogging was not able to really serve the kind of goals that I had. I didn't think blogging was going to be the path that would be able to match it, because I'm talking about an industry that's extremely nascent. I'm working with brands, but brands only want to gift me clothes or
Yeah.
vouchers for 2,000 rupees or perfumes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay,
There's no
this is
money
not,
there. Yeah.
there's no money there. How am I going to build a career that's going to be monetarily satisfactory? That's going to make me successful. I love it, but I don't see it. Um, which is when I actually launched my own e-commerce portal, uh, which was actually connected to my initial idea of bringing global trends to India,
Yeah.
right? And at this point in India and in the Indian fashion industry, we didn't have any of the international brands here. So we didn't have the Zara's, we didn't have the H&M,
Yeah.
and we were turning to more local brands, to shop, more department stores, and I felt like they were not being able to give us the international trends at the timeline that we needed it, right? So it will only come to us like 2 or 3 seasons later, which really, like, even as a fashion blogger, I'm like, okay, where do I get my stuff from?
Yeah.
Which was the purpose of my e-commerce portal and why I started it. Yes, and I think at this point, it was my blogging journey got very confusing because I was actually targeting my blogging readership and trying to convert them into customers for my e-commerce portal, right? So my expression completely got lost because I was only wearing and promoting what my brand was selling.
Yeah.
Versus the point was to wear and promote what you love, what you discover, what you happen to just, find at a flea market or at a vintage store. There was a mix of all these amazing fashion discoveries, and that kind of got muddled up.
No, that's actually a balance. And I feel especially now as more and more creators are moving to kind of saying, okay, how can I kind of build products out, build businesses out? This balance of people, I've built a community who come to me for a certain kind of content, and they know that it's authentic, it's a form of expression they connect to, and at some point when there's a business there or as a product you're kind of pushing through, how do you kind of build that balance? And I think that's a balance that a lot of creators struggle with, in trying to find, okay, how do I find a way to it shouldn't feel like I'm overselling what is my own interest, but I still need to make sure that this parts of kind of grows as well. How have you found that balance?
So, Varun, actually, I'm going to take a step back. So 3 years after I launched my e-commerce portal, I actually moved away from it completely. And we shut down that business. Actually, and it was definitely a huge personal and professional failure for me, because it was a dream. I had a lot of goals attached, a lot of dreams attached to it. So there was a lot of disappointment attached to it as well. But I don't shy away from talking about it as a failure, because I genuinely feel like it was so important in my journey. Because as soon as I shut down that business is when I started blogging full time, and really found a job that I really, really love waking up to, right? And I feel like there's nothing compared to that feeling in the world. For me, at least, there's nothing like that feeling. So I have so much gratitude to give to that business. But even today, as I'm full time blogging, there are so many people who come to me, and this includes family, friends, like colleagues, mentors, saying, start your own product, launch your own brand, right, Varun? Because that, I feel, that's what people believe is the next step for a creator, for an influencer.
Yeah.
And I always say no, because I truly believe that is the only visible step. We're looking at the global creator industry, and we're looking at what creators have done already. Right? What they've done is they've created a really strong community, excellent readership, and then they've launched their own product or their own brand, and they've kind of converted that.
Yeah.
And because it's been done, I don't think that's the only way. I'm really here to carve a new path for myself. And I don't think that needs to necessarily involve having my own product or involve having my own brand, because I genuinely believe that the world right now does not need another fashion brand or need another fashion product. In accordance to everything that's happening globally, right? From the environmental end, from the consumerism end, from the political end, I genuinely believe that we need more thought and we need more experiences compared to needing more products and needing more brands. And there are some amazing exceptions to this, and I might come up with a brand that could maybe cater to both. But do I really feel like the need to launch a product today because that's the only path that creators have set across the entire world, and that's the given next step for a creator? Because I get this question a lot, right? You have a following of 1 million people. What is the next step? What are you going to do with these 1 million people?
Exactly,
and I always get this crazy example, if you had to 10,000 people, if you sold a product for 100 rupees, this is how much you would make. To 10,000 people, if you sold a product with 1,000 rupees. And I feel like this sort of culture of hustle kind of takes away from, and I think also because I had that e-commerce business, right? I had that product. I've already been through that phase and that experience in sort of in the midst of my career. And now I'm sort of on the other half of it. So because I've had that, I've realized that there is so much more that creators can do. It's just a very unknown industry. It's such a new industry. And as an industry, I think everyone is also making so many mistakes, right? Me included. So I think we're all learning, like we're all kind of just learning on the job, which is really interesting, but it's also hard for others to accept.
No, I find it. I always love it when someone talks about failure as something that you learn from, and almost like the way it pushes you towards a direction of finding, like the fact that when you were talking, I know the fact that you said, okay, it failed, but you found something that is the happiest job to wake up to every morning. That's why at some point, and failure becomes that stepping stone in many ways. But if you look at that point, what are your key learnings from that phase that made you kind of almost say, okay, this is how I am going to be as someone who creates content, as someone who focuses on what I do. What were your key learnings from that point?
So I think my first learning would be that, like I said, I was extremely ambitious, still am. I connected that ambition solely to monetary goals and to goals that others defined as success. At that tender age of 2021, I completely missed that entire purpose
Mm.
that comes attached to success, that sort of satisfaction, that contentment in really being able to make a difference in your community, in your industry, and sort of sleeping at night knowing that you're doing something great and
Yeah.
you're actually adding value to the industry.
Mm.
I think I completely missed that. And it was really funny at the end of it, right? When like 3 years later, I'm like, wow, so I thought I would launch, we launch businesses thinking these are our monetary goals, and
Yeah.
this is the kind of success and this is the kind of awards we want to win, and this is the kind of fame we're going to receive. But we're never, I truly believe this, right? We're never going to be able to achieve all of that if it's not backed by purpose.
So
Um,
true.
and even if it comes, right, even if the money, the fame, all of it comes, it's not going to be long term if it's
Mm.
not backed by purpose. Because as whatever we put out there is going to come back to us.
Yeah.
And if we're not fueling from the heart, at some point, our output is going to run out. The only way the output is kind of everlasting is if it's really coming from within.
I think that's beautiful, right? Because at some point, that's what I feel is the big struggle. The big struggle is that, and you mentioned this earlier as well, is that that you constantly question what your purpose is, because at some point, as you start to monetize, as you start to say, okay, what are my numbers like? What's the data like? And many of those things kind of come in from time to time. There's a need from time to time to stand back and think, okay, why did I start doing this in the first place? What do I enjoy about it? It might not even be the data is enjoyable many times. I'm going to put that out there for sure. But I feel that purpose point, I think, is very important, because at that point, that's going to drive you to make better content. It'll actually make you more successful than any monetary focus can. I'd say when you start doing this, I think when I look at your content, what I really like is the fact that I can't differentiate if you've done something for a brand or if you've done something just because you wanted to. And I feel that's the core part. If that there's and when that differentiate doesn't really come across as much, for a fact of when there's you're on that part where you're enjoying every piece that you're creating. So what's your general process like on that front? And because I've always found it interesting when I can't spot it as easily as most and many times with creators you can.
So Varun, for me, I love my clients, right? I love the brands that I work with, and I'm I've come and I've seen this industry at a point where influencers and content creators in India, especially,
Mm.
always made it creators versus clients,
Yeah.
creators versus PR,
Yeah.
right? That has been the general consensus,
Mm.
which I think is a very negative mindset, right?
Yeah.
You can't have that. The clients are in the end, they're putting the food on your table.
I have
And
to butt in here and say this, that I was once moderating a panel which had a lot of brands in the audience, and there was a person from a was it a creator, or I think it was a creative manager, who said that when our content goes down is when we have our brand integration in front of a set of brands. And I remember giving a rebuttal saying, but the brands are paying to be a part of it. So it's
yeah.
your job to make sure it doesn't go down. But yeah, I totally agree with you on what you just said. Sorry, I came in.
Yeah. So I think the mindset and the approach has maybe just started off on the wrong foot. And like I was saying, this is an industry where there is too much example taking, there's too much referencing happening, right? Because it's such a new industry.
Mm.
So people are only looking at what others are doing. They're very afraid to create their own path because they don't know what's next.
Mm.
Um, and I think there is this sort of constant battle and constant complaining that you hear on the internet, which I think is very wrong. For me, I love my clients. There are so many times when clients are unhappy with my content, right? Naturally, it's a business, and I think that used to be very, very difficult for me in the beginning because I used to take it very personally. Because I had a hard time separating sort of Masoom the brand from Masoom the person, so I felt very personally attacked.
Yeah.
But now, whenever sort of that sort of a situation happens, it's and this is where the entrepreneurial side also kicks in, right? Having a business, being a part of a lot of other businesses today. um, I realize that today, if I am paying a creator so much money to create content, I'm going to have expectations, and I always think about it that way. When I'm creating content for a brand, I ask myself that if this was my brand, or if this is one of the brands that I'm attached to today, what kind of content would I want a creator to create is one, but also what kind of a approach do I want the creator to have towards my brand?
Yeah.
It's so important for that for a creator or for me to also love what I'm talking about, because if you don't, the audience is going to see it.
Hmm.
Uh,
So true.
Audiences are very intelligent. And if I'm talking about the Indian audience, oh my God, they are really, really intelligent.
Yeah.
They're looking at everything, and this is something I've learned in 10 years is they absorb energy. They recognize energy. They literally, I have posted about brands on a day where I've been maybe tired or something that, there's been times like I can't say I love every brand that I've promoted. I'm learning along the way, right? There have been times where maybe I've promoted something that I've not been as attached to. And I've seen the audience pick up on that, right? Which has been such a great learning, but it's also been an important realization.
I have a bunch more questions, but I do know that I've gotten my prompt to go in for a break. So I'm just
Okay.
going to do that, and we'll be right back with Advertising is Dead. Security on a computer is like a layered cake. No matter how secure each layer may be, attackers and hackers will work tirelessly to find a vulnerability and exploit it. These cyber attacks can sneak into a system unnoticed, eventually gaining access to all the programs and files on your computer stack. Luckily, with Intel vPro platform, all of this is avoidable. Intel vPro has the Intel Hardware Shield, which adds protection to every layer of the computer system with 3 groups of security capabilities. Advanced threat protection, which helps quickly detect and remediate the latest ransomware and crypto mining attacks on the system. Below the OS security, which helps identify unauthorized changes to hardware and firmware, and application and data protection, which helps prevent memory corruption and malware injection. So secure your organization's productivity with hardware-based security only with Intel vPro. Visit www.intel.in/itheroes to know more. Intel vPro, built for business. Welcome back to Advertising is Dead. We still talk to Masu. One of the pieces that hit me while you're speaking before we went in for break was, in many ways, when you almost treat clients you work with or brands you work with as almost like you're invested in them because they're invested in you, it also forms a far more integral, I'd say, way of working where you almost find a balance there, and you don't make it transactional, because I think a lot of times the more transactional it gets from either side, and it's not just one sided on that front, it shows. And what you said before we went to a break makes total sense, because that's literally what one big problem is and I feel it's two-sided. The brands also do it, so do creators. And so if you had to kind of put down something, if you want to really be able to do this, if you want to work with all kinds of brands, as a creator, these are key pieces that you should kind of keep in mind. What would those be?
So I think, one thing that I always do is I tell the brands and the partners that I'm working with that let me conceptualize and let me ideate the concept, right? And this is something that brands are not always open to. But I personally, me and my team coax them into it. And I think this is something that brands need to be more open to for a better, more beneficial relationship with creators and a better, more impactful association, But at the same time, I think creators also need to keep brand guidelines and brand communication in mind, right? If you have a brand that's extremely earthy and say Ayurvedic, you can't give it the treatment that you'll give a contemporary fashion brand. You have to keep the brand language in mind and understand that to get the brand, the kind of audience that would find its product or service appealing, you are the middle person. You need to create that type of content, right? So that's one. And I think the second thing is that, and this really helps me, is in this industry, right? Brands always come back with a lot of feedback. And the larger the brands, the more feedback it is. So I've seen that smaller brands are a lot more open to us ideating and creating content the way we like, and they trust us blindly. But as the brands get more sort of corporate, and there are larger agencies involved, there's way too many sort of prerequisites attached,
and too many opinions.
Yes.
Of course. I'm in the middle of that part. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Too many opinions. And I think at this point, right, of course, I mean, little shout out to the agencies and PR to take it easy on us. But I think at this point, what really helps me is that I tell myself that, look, nobody's out here to make life difficult for anyone. It would just be so much easier for, say, an agency or, or the brand itself to just approve the content in the first place. If the content is not being approved, there is a reason behind it. There is some sort of output that they're not getting, or there is some sort of disconnect that they are finding with the brand and the content, which is why they're coming back with it. And I think at that point, to put yourself in the brand's shoes, in the client's shoes, and really, understand what they're trying to say versus being like, oh my God, it's just another change from a brand, is very helpful. The only reason I'm able to do this is because I know my worth. So when I'm working with a brand, my fee is completely linear to my worth, right? So I would really tell creators that know your worth. Please track your content and how it's performing for a brand and label. It's much easier to do this actually with smaller brands and smaller labels because it'll actually give you access to data, give you access to conversions and sales. So that's a great sort of insight that you can get. And please track what kind of conversions are you driving for the brand? What kind of engagement and visibility are you really getting from them? And then put your price down, right? So I think when there's a tricky situation with a brand, the first thought that comes to your mind is, I charge too less for this, or I'm wasting my time on this. That will not arise if your prices and your rates.
I have to admit, I've felt the feelings at some point of time in the last many months.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So I think as soon as you're commanding a price that you genuinely, and of course it's backed by data, because you're commanding that price because you can drive that kind of return or provide that kind of visibility, then you automatically, the whole situation is a lot more softened in your mind, right? Because you're like, they've agreed to my price, they've agreed to my rate. And that sort of content negotiation is a part of the process. We've also believed, like, and I've also kind of changing that mindset. I've also believed that I create the content, I submit to the brand, or not submit to the brand, and I post and my association is done. I think we all need to, as creators, accept that there is a step that will be a brand approval, which might have positive or negative feedback. And I think that would make the whole process more comfortable.
And also not take it personally. I feel that becomes the thing, right? I
my
normally
God.
create this. I'm taking it personally that you give me feedback, and that is honestly, I think the one big piece to kind of jump over, because it's only natural, right? You're normally putting it out there, and you have audiences react a certain way, and then you have feedback coming in, like, okay, why are you giving me feedback? Can't you see that I know what I'm doing?
You're still underselling it. This is the most painful part of it. Literally, this is just the most painful part of it.
You mentioned smaller brands, but I feel what's also interesting, what I love about one of the focus you have is that you've also been showcasing Indian designers in a global form, and I feel that's really interesting, because in many ways you're doing the opposite of what you set out to do. If I think about what your first thing was, bring global looks and brands to India, to now saying, let me take Indian fashion to the world. And as you're doing that, have you seen that, especially the number of, I don't think it's about smaller brands as well, I think it's across the board, a lot of smaller ones are pushing out a lot of interesting style and fashion and a lot of things there. But have you seen that as one of the things that's been a lot more satisfying to kind of put out, and has the community kind of resounded to that as well, because it makes it accessible, right, in many ways?
100%. I've seen the community respond to it extremely well. But I think I'd also kind of bring this back to the whole purpose point, right? But I feel like I finally have a platform with a community I'm so proud of. I've dreamed of like having this kind of a readership and these kind of numbers. And I feel like once you have that platform, you at some point have to kind of give back. There is a certain sort of, I don't know what it is. It's this feeling or intuition or sensation that kicks in, saying you have to use this platform for something greater than yourself.
So true.
And something that I'm really attached to is Indian fashion. And it's something that I've constantly worn and celebrated. And I think it's the kind of, like, the dearth of Indian designers and labels and homegrown brands. I don't think any other country is populated with this type, kind, and volume of talent. In fact, I'm sure. I'm sure it's not. And I think it's a gold mine. Yeah, it's just that I'm literally playing the role of sort of a curator and departmentalizer in terms of, I just want to bring that to a larger audience in a more organized way, because in India there's always so much, right?
Yeah.
So in a way where we can actually drive conversion to the brands, and it's something that I feel really strongly about. And of course I didn't know this, it's something that you learn along the way. It's not like I started creating these posts and I was like, oh, this is this is it, like I feel so great right now. But I think somewhere along the journey, it takes months and months to actually realize that, oh, this is what makes my heart sing, or this is kind of making a difference to that homegrown business, or that Indian label who maybe didn't think they would make it through COVID, right? But like just that message from them saying we sold 20 lehengas through your post is like, oh my god. And they're telling you, right, that you changed our business, like we didn't even think we would make it through this year. So I think it I have a platform, and people are coming to see, view, and experience fashion.
Yeah.
And in the process, right, of me creating and me expressing, if there are people that I can help grow, then I don't think that there's anything more wonderful than that.
What you just said is, I think, is a great point for me to bring up Empower, right? Because you actually feels like a natural extension of what you're just saying. Saying, okay, one second, there's a way. There obviously is a platform that you built, and now it's almost, can you elevate like women in business and kind of push that out there? And I'd love to ask you about how it came about and how you've been scaling it up.
Yes, absolutely. So, the thing is, I always started talking about fashion. And like I said, my journey has been very confusing in terms of I've always had this. It's like, what the hell am I doing? And there's also, Varun, there's been parts where what type of content am I creating? Like, who am I creating? Like, I
Who are you
did
making
this.
it for? Yeah.
Who am I making it for? Are they listening? Like, I remember about 6 years ago, I did this gratitude challenge on my platform, right? And then I was like, but how do I even connect this back to fashion content, right? And I feel like even today, and people have always, they want to know more about me, and that's the thing with any personalities, right? In India, that's just the kind of community that exists. Even whether it's with Bollywood, with TV actors, with content creators, the audiences just want more and more and more, as much as you can give them. So I'm a very I have a lot of different sides to me. I'm an extremely passionate person about a lot of categories and a lot of subjects in my life. And fashion is one of them, which I've converted into my career. But I have a lot of hobbies and lots of things I'm passionate about. And my audience keeps asking me for more and more of these different things, right? And I felt like the one thing that I really wanted to answer and give back to, because there's a lot that I also don't want to talk about, right? Like my spiritual journey, for example, is not something that I feel like I want to indulge with my internet community with, for example. It's something that is more private and personal to me. But something that I really wanted to, indulge my community with is my entrepreneurial journey. The sort of the business and the entrepreneurial lessons and failures that I've had, and how I can actually use that to create content that's focused to more women entrepreneurs, women-led businesses, women at work. Because that is something that I really think, again, comes back to my purpose, another side of it, where I really think, in India especially, we could do it. That's an area that requires additional help. Where the numbers at which our numbers of women, in the workforce is alarming. And it's literally like, it's not even at a low rate. It's decreasing currently. So it's just, and I do think that if I can make a difference to the fashion community with my content, I want to go an extra step further. And so this is a separate series that I've started where I'm talking about more professional tidbits. I'm talking about money and careers and how you can be more efficient at work. And how I increase my productivity. So it's more sort of professional content, but of course focused towards women. And I'm hoping that it can be a way of encouraging women to be more at work, because we need it, or supporting them through their journeys.
On a bit of a segue here, has you moving out of the country and now operating? I always love to say that a lot of creators now are global citizens, because and I'm stealing this from someone. I'm stealing this from Roshan, because Roshan said this to me the other day, saying we're all global citizens. So in many ways, you are in actuality also a global citizen because you've moved out of country, and so working with your team with an audience that is now in many places, um, how has that affected how you create and how your process goes?
It's actually amazing because my entire team is in India and I'm the only one here. And I have literally just my photographer is here with me, and my entire team is in India. So while they are very, in the current and very relevant and very present, I'm actually able to look at things from 3 steps back, right? And that gives me a much wider view and a much larger perspective, which has actually helped us grow our business so much. I've been able to create content that is very distinguished from other creators who are actually in my industry or my colleagues or my competition, right? And that's been an added sort of value that we are adding to the brands and clients that we work with. So that's been a huge benefit. Secondly, I think, being here, I attend a lot more global events, fashion weeks, launches, PR events, and I'm able to look at sort of the creator industry from a global angle. And India works very differently from the rest of the world. It's not even to do with the creator industry, it's to do with anything that India does, right? It's
Exactly.
India has its own animal completely, has its own sort of trajectories, all of it. And I think because and being at these global sort of standpoints, I feel like I'm able to give back to my Indian community from a more global angle and a more global perspective. So it's refreshing for them as well, right? Because they're seeing different visuals, but they're also seeing a different thought process. And of course, I mean, being in Bombay, you tend to be in a bubble. You live in a bubble, you grow in a bubble, and that's all you're kind of consumed with.
You move from bubble to bubble is what I call
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Exactly. And being here, I've had so many uncomfortable experiences, in the creator industry, in the fashion industry, or just being an Indian who doesn't who lives as a global citizen. I've had so many sort of falters and stumbles that to an extent, even sharing those experiences with my community has really helped me build that connection, with them.
Yeah. There was a recent one you spoke about. I remember reading it online about what happened on the red carpet, right? Which was And I also want to throw back to one of the first things you said when, as we started chatting today, is that some of your early content also had a lot of people commenting or rather talking about not in the nicest of senses. There is always that toxic side of how this whole thing goes. So I'd want to also ask you about how this part is going, but also to kind of do a throwback to that and saying if there's any connection between those and how you felt about it and how you deal with it.
Um, so with the red carpet experience, I think, to be very honest, I'm already uncomfortable and at a certain level of discomfort when I'm going there because people are surprised to see an Indian face there. That doesn't look like a Bollywood actress. That's not like a 6 feet, with a perfect figure, and that they're surprised, right? So that the initial reaction already puts me into discomfort. Versus if I was doing the same event, say in India, I think my approach only would be very different. Versus here, you're kind of in the unknown. If you think you're somebody, I mean, forget about it. You're nobody, right? And that's amazing because it grounds you, it humanizes you completely. But at the same time, you realize every minute in and out the lack of Indian representation in any category apart from literally the Bollywood stars. Um, and there's actually phenomenal work that we've seen them do, right? Like Priyanka Chopra, Sonam Kapoor, and in the fashion industry, they've actually been able to elevate that Indian standpoint and that Indian sort of perspective, which is commendable. But at the same time, I feel like the amount of Indian creators in the global sort of phenomenon, like Prajakta Kohli just did something amazing with Michelle Obama, and it was such a proud moment for all of us. We need more of that. I want to give you 25 more examples, right? Like that's the goal. But because that doesn't, you're already at a level of discomfort, right? So there's you're already out of sort of your comfort zone, and then of course there's a lot of the usual uh, people. There's people sitting at home, in their cushioned sofas and on their phones saying, oh my god, hate what she's wearing, that fabric is disgusting, or like, isn't she too short to be on the red carpet? And I don't blame them, right? Because they are not aware of what it's like to be there,
Yeah.
to anyways in a situation which is so overwhelming, physically, and just because you don't know
Yeah.
what you're doing. Like, I'm being honest, like, I'm not an expert at this, right?
Mm.
I don't know. I didn't even know what the hell a red carpet was, or how you're supposed to walk, which side you're supposed to look.
Yeah.
Literally, like, on the red carpet, I had like my pallu completely falter, and I had to adjust my outfit like on the red carpet.
Mm.
But I think, people forget that humanizing factor when you're sitting at home. And I think it's really helped, which is why I try to talk about it, because it's as important, yeah, that journey, that experience, that all of that discomfort, like not knowing anyone. And trust me, people like don't understand my accent
Mm.
in Europe, right? Like, they
Mm.
don't understand how I talk. So automatically, and this happens, is you
Mm.
adjust your accent. Your accent kind of, I used to make fun of my husband because he's from Belgium. He's Indian,
Yeah.
but he's from Belgium. And I'd be like, what is this global Guju accent that you have? And because it's like, it's not American, it's not British.
Yeah.
I'm like, what
Yeah.
the hell is this? And it just, you're
You
kind of
you
in the
you
middle.
adjust to
Yeah.
the way people
You
will
adjust to the
be.
way that
Yeah.
people you're talking to. But I'm still talking on my Instagram all day to my Indian audience, right?
Mm.
And they're like, why the hell does she have an accent?
Mm.
But come and live in my shoes and speak to people all day that make you repeat everything you're saying,
Mm.
5 times or 6 times,
Yeah.
because they literally, even if you're at a store trying to buy a packet of chips, they're just
Yeah.
not understanding it.
Yeah.
And I think what's really helped is being able to cut out that glitz and glamour and just be able to be ourselves. And I think this has been a journey for me. I haven't been able to do it. In fact,
Mm.
this year was one of the first time I did it. And I don't
Mm.
know how I found the courage to, but I found it. And I was able to be more raw and open about my failures, my disappointments, and really be able to humanize this whole red carpet that sounds so glamorous.
Yeah.
But and it is. It's not that it's not glamorous, but there's just so much that goes on behind the scenes,
Yeah.
And I feel like as a creator, I actually have the opportunity to do that.
Mm.
I feel like with other personalities, they're bound by so many contracts and a way of being that they're not able to do that. And I was like, you know what? I am pretty much the master of my own destiny and
Yeah.
the boss of my own business. Let me show them how it's really done. Let me tell them that it's kind of sucks to be on the red carpet and be like 5 feet something, because, and it's also like photographers sometimes don't want to click you, right? Because they don't know
Yeah.
who the hell you are.
Yeah.
And you're just seeing that last final snapshot. And I'm telling you an experience about Cannes, South of France, red carpet sounds so glamorous, but these are just, in general, people think the creator business, right? And I'm sure they think the same about you as well, Varun.
Yeah.
Is that you're kind of sitting there and talking to the most magnificent personalities. I mean, apart from me.
Of course, you as well
But
included in that.
they see all the glitz and glam behind it, but there is a absolute lack of understanding of what goes on behind this job, and the lack of glamour that also exists.
Yeah, I'm sitting here in my sweatshorts for the last 2 years recording this. So I'm like, the furthest thing away from glamour you will find.
Yeah.
But I feel it's also important to share this, like you said, right? Because you were able to share it. It not only humanizes it, but also makes people. It's important to make people see what this can kind of do. Because I feel that creators have this unique balance of, there's your personal life, there is the professional side of what you're doing, as well as your creator side, and there are 3 different sides, and you're trying to balance all 3 together. And in between that, in many ways, a part of this cycle is the feedback and the conversation loop that you have with your audience, or whoever is saying something to you, whoever's in front of you. So it is a constant balancing act. And at some point, the more the audiences realize it as well, at some point, and I don't know, I'm being extremely optimistic here, that maybe that part will be the easiest part to balance. I don't think it'll ever be, but I feel that that's the only way it can go.
Absolutely. So the way I do it is I remove the third part and I divide it into 2. So I do Masoom the brand and I do Masoom the individual, right?
Yeah.
And my audience connection, I give to Masoom the brand. So basically the way I look at it, Varun, is I've stopped using social media for personal purposes. It's the only way for me to be sane, right? So every time I go online, it's work. I'm clocking working hours. And that's the only way to look at it. So beyond a 9 p.m., I'm not checking my phone. And I'm genuinely not checking my phone. I'm not on Instagram at all. I have really long working hours. So I'm, I'm kind of balancing that. But basically every time I'm online, it's this person. It's Masoom the brand. It's not Masoom the individual. And that helps to solve so much, right? Because whether it's whipping out my entrepreneurial side or connecting to my audience or, any of it, it's Masoom the brand. So if Masoom at work, if she's having a busy work day, then she doesn't have time to talk to her audience. Because if she needs to talk to her audience, it needs to happen in working hours. It's not something that can happen post-dinner. And, drawing that line has been so hard. And okay, come on, it's taken like 10 years because I'm only, I've had this realization since basically 6 months of my life. But it's been a game changer. Just being able to separate. So even when there's a demand or a request from an audience, I know who's responding. It's Masoom the brand that's responding. Even if I'm being vulnerable, it's still Masoom the brand that's being vulnerable. It's not Masoom the individual. That person is reserved for her family and her friends and her inner circle and reading and dancing and doing the things that she loves. And if she wants to post a dance video that she really loved, it'll go to her team first. And then we transfer to Masoom the brand. And it's a lot of lines, but the kind of world that we're living in and the kind of impact that the internet can have on our mental state and our physical state, actually, because my fingers are all messed up now because of the phone. So our physical state as well. I think we also need to make drastic lifestyle changes to just adjust to that.
Someone noticed this the other day, and I hadn't realized it, that I can actually type without looking at the touch screen. So I was just talking to someone and my fingers are still typing. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm typing a message. And they're like, you're not looking at your screen. I'm like, it's so natural now that I don't have to look. I can just I know where the keys are on a touch screen. I still cannot type on a keyboard without looking at the keys. But I guess some way I learned typing in that sense. This demarcation is interesting because I think that's the key struggle, right? As more and more of us look to say, okay, how do we monetize? How do we build into a business? How do we that separation, because we all started using social media as individuals, and after a point you make that switch saying, no, I'm doing this as a creator and as a brand.
Exactly.
And to draw that line saying, okay, what is personal and what is the brand, is tricky because, well, you almost are separating your personality into two. But I guess I love what you said about giving it an intent. At this time, this ends, and then you take it from there. I think that's one good way, but it is tricky.
So the way I do it is I don't separate the personalities. I separate it by time and place, right? Because my Masoom, the brand, is all Masoom, the individual, right? To be honest. But I feel like Masoom, the individual, cannot be even 1% of Masoom, the brand. And, honestly, this really impacts who we are as people. Like constantly being on the internet and constantly getting this level of validation. I can't afford this in my personal life. Like I'll drive my husband and my parents and my best friends crazy. And this realization has obviously not come out of nowhere. I've obviously been at a breaking point where I feel like I'm going batshit crazy if I don't find a solution to this. Right. So there's been a point where I've kind of been so controlled by what the internet thinks of me, or been so crippled by the fear of being cancelled, which has kind of brought me to this division and being able to understand this. But of course, I mean, the audience connects with who Masoom is, and it's so confusing, right? Because it's actually the same
person.
It's the same
like multiple persons. That's it.
So I divided by time and by place, and that's very helpful.
That's a perfect point for me to actually go into towards the last segment of the show. But I know that there's a second break coming. We're doing second breaks now. So you can go in for another break and be right back with Advertising is Dead.
$100. That's all it takes to begin your journey with Bitcoin and Ethereum. No, really. With CoinSwitch, you can start investing in over 100 cryptocurrencies with just 100 rupees. On top of that, there are zero charges for deposits and withdrawals, so you can trade, buy, sell, however and whenever you want. All of this, plus their extremely intuitive interface, makes CoinSwitch the perfect app for beginners in the crypto space. But don't take my word for it. Just download CoinSwitch for free and try it out for yourself. If you'd like more information on cryptocurrencies, tune into A Show About Crypto with me, Rohan Joshi, my new adventure on IVM Podcasts. CoinSwitch, kuch to badlega.
Welcome back to Advertising is Dead. We're still talking to Masu. Masu, this is the last part of the show where most of the questions have always stayed the same over the years, and I will continue to keep them that way. What do you spend a lot of time doing beyond what people know that you spend a lot of time doing?
Oh, I spend a lot of time with my family and friends, more than you can imagine.
That is actually one of the best things you can. I have realized. I think that
It's one of my hobbies.
One of the things I take back from the last 2 years of being almost 2 years of being in lockdown is that this is the most amount of time I've spent at home. But that's been the best part about it, is I couldn't agree more with that fact. What can you put together in an instant?
Maggie.
You have given one of the most probably it has commonly
Common answer.
It hasn't come back. It hasn't come back in a while, so it's almost like it's come back after a while. Kind of a response has come back. What do people get wrong about creating reels?
They put in too much effort. Reels is all about
just get it,
Reels
put it together, put it out.
Reels doesn't want you to edit stuff.
Yeah.
They want you to create on the phone. They want it to be organic. They want it to be just, but I'm one of them who puts in too much effort. So I get it wrong as well, but it's just, you don't always have to give the platform what it asks for. Sometimes you show the platform what it needs.
That actually is actually a great point, because most times you're trying to say, okay, what's it? Because the number of accounts that show up in my reels telling me how I should make reels.
Yeah.
And I'm like, can I just how do I get the algo not to show me those? And I have so many of those. So every fifth reel is this is how you should create reels. Look in my captions. I'm like, I don't want to look in your captions. Can I just go to the next reel now? No, but that's so true. Anything you've read, watched, or listened to recently that you recommend?
I'm currently reading the Da Vinci Code, and oh my God, mind blowing.
If you once you've done with that, you should actually watch all the movies as well.
Yeah.
Okay, the movies are great. I actually like Angels and Demons as a movie more than the Da Vinci Code, and the Inferno is quite good as well. So there are 3 of them, right? So and I know they're making a prequel. I think.
To Angels and Demons. Wow.
When he was young, so when Robert Langdon was young, I think they're planning one. I'm not sure. I read it some time back, but that was pre-COVID. I'm actually thinking about, so my last question is generally a spin on the name of the show. Why do you think fashion content will not die?
Why do I think fashion content will not die?
Why will people continue to want to consume it? Why will it not die?
Because I genuinely believe that fashion is just a way of expressing yourself. And I think expression will not die. Fashion is just another form of creation and art and artistry and expression. And that is never going to die, because that's an emotion. Emotions aren't going anywhere.
So true. Thank you so much, Masum. Thank you for coming on the show. It's been great chatting with you. Tons of insights there for creators, for brands who want to work with creators, and how to kind of look at this from a purposeful lens, how to kind of use a platform to kind of scale things up. So thank you for coming on the show, and I'm really happy we could do this. And thanks for coming on Advertising is Dead.
Thank you so much, Varun.
If you like this podcast and you want to listen to more podcasts like this, head over to the IVM Podcast website or app, or wherever you get your podcast from, and look at all the podcasts that IVM makes. There's some really fun stuff there.
Hey everybody, it's been a great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Storytellers and Storysellers, Vineet is joined by Megha Rao, poet and visual artist. She shares her inspiration, her process, and the challenges around expressing the beauty and anguish of being a young woman. On Cyrus Says, Cyrus is joined by author and historian Manu Pillai. They talk about all of Manu's amazing books, including his latest, False Allies. Rushina Munshah Gildayal joins Sadaf and Archita Nankari. They discuss recipes from the mountain and discuss the cuisine of Uttarakhand. For all the last-minute ninjas out there, on Say No to Drama, Chitna calls out the habits you need to manage your time better. On Simplified, Chuck, Naren, Tony, and Shrike discover how rare diseases are treated with molecular biologist Bertie Ashley. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any other show for that matter, please do tell a friend. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors on the network this week, Cred, Bank of Baroda, Quarter, CoinSwitch, Kuber, and Inter. We appreciate the support.
पेश खिदमत है आपकी शान में हमारे अंजुमन से. Hi, I am Sadaf.
And I'm Arshit. खाने का इतिहास, economics, policy, psychology, सब है मेन्यू पे।
ओनली ऑन द नानकारी पॉडकास्ट एवरी वेडनेसडे, सिर्फ IVM पॉडकास्ट ऐप या वेबसाइट पर, या फिर जहां से भी आप अपने पॉडकास्ट सुनते हो।